Most people watched the April 27th press briefing and moved on. Nobody caught what actually happened in the 11 minutes before Karoline Leavitt said those 3 words. The 11 minutes that explain why the words landed the way they did and why the White House had spent the previous 72 hours building toward them. The 3 words were, "Who says that?" She said them at the podium, the specific podium in the James S. Brady press briefing room, the room whose geography is always the same and whose temperature is always something else, in the sharp, rising register of a woman who has been handed a moment and knows it. She told them about the expectant widow joke. She said them the way you say something when you have been waiting for the opportunity, and the opportunity has arrived, and the cameras are on, and you are 27 years old, and you are the press secretary of the United States, and the question is about Jimmy Kimmel. You could feel the scaffolding of the response before she finished building it. The pause before, "Who says that?" A half-beat longer than the question required, the specific duration of a person deciding which register to enter before speaking, told you the words that followed had been prepared, not discovered. That is not a criticism. It is an observation about how a White House press operation functions when it has decided that a late-night comedian's joke about a first lady is the story it wants to tell on a Monday in late April, 11 days before that comedian's final broadcast. But to understand what made the moment so revealing, and what the scaffolding of the White House response exposed about the week that produced it, you have to start 11 days earlier in a television studio in Burbank with a man in a tuxedo standing at a podium. April 24th, the alternative White House Correspondents' Dinner. Kimmel at the microphone, dressed for the occasion the White House had made him uninvited to, performing the set for an audience that included journalists and entertainers and the specific, attentive category of people who come to a room knowing that what happens in it will be reported. He looked at a cutaway clip of Melania Trump. He said, "You have the glow of an expectant widow." The room laughed. Kimmel moved to the next joke. The broadcast aired. The clip circulated. 2 days later, at the White House Correspondents Association dinner in Washington, a man with weapons attempted to breach the ballroom where the Trumps and political figures were present. Nobody was seriously hurt. The proximity, a widow joke. 2 days, a ballroom security incident, was the kind of timing accident that a political operation recognizes as an opportunity before the news cycle has finished processing what actually happened. Trump posted Sunday night. He called the joke a despicable call to violence. He said it was far beyond the pale. He said Kimmel should be immediately fired by Disney and ABC. Melania's statement followed on White House letterhead. Then Monday morning, Leavitt at the podium. She walked to the briefing room lectern the way she always walks to it, with the specific forward energy of a woman who has decided, before the door opens, that today is a day for offense rather than defense. Both hands found the sides of the podium. She looked at the room. The cameras were where the cameras always are. The reporters were where the reporters always are. A correspondent in the 3rd row had his hand up before she finished the opening statement. The reporter asked about the joke. He cited Kimmel's defense, that it was a light roast about an age difference, that it was not by any stretch a call to assassination, and that they know that. He asked, "Does the White House actually believe this was a call to violence?" She said, "Who says that?" She said it with the specific rising emphasis of a woman delivering a line that is meant to land as a closing argument rather than open a discussion. She said, "Who says?" She repeated the phrase, the second iteration sharper than the first, the repetition of someone who has prepared a moment and is now performing it in the room it was prepared for. That about anyone? You could feel the difference between the question and the performance of the question. The reporter had asked whether the White House actually believed the call to violence characterization. Leavitt had not answered whether they believed it. She had asked who says something like that about anyone, which is a different sentence, constructed to move the conversation from the factual question of belief to the moral question of decency, and to do it in a register that photographs well and clips better. The Guardian published the following morning, "Why is Jimmy Kimmel being held to a higher standard than Donald Trump?" The piece was 14 paragraphs. Its central argument was that the expectant widow joke, a roast observation about an age difference at a comedy event with a 97-year tradition of exactly this format, had produced a presidential Truth Social post, a First Lady statement on White House letterhead, a press secretary briefing room performance, and calls for immediate termination, while Trump's documented statements, "Shoot them where they stand about migrants," "A whole civilization will die tonight about Iran," termination of all rules, regulations, and articles, even those found in the Constitution, had produced press secretary statements describing them as the words of a man who speaks in a unique and powerful way. Kimmel addressed it Monday night with the economy of a man who has been given, by the people trying to silence him, more material than any monologue could have used. He said, "This was a very light roast joke about the fact that he's almost 80 and she's younger than I am." He said, "It was not by any stretch of the definition a call to assassination." He said, "And they know that." He said the last three words, "and they know that," in the flat, even voice of a man reading a conclusion that has already been reached and does not require defense, only statement. He said it the way Leavitt had said, "Who says that?" once with emphasis, but in the opposite register. Her three words had been designed to close a question. His three words were designed to open one. The confirmation arrived at 2:47 a.m. that night, not from a medical professional or an anonymous source, but from Trump himself, in the Oval Office, on April 2nd footage that had resurfaced that week. A clip of the president mid-sentence, mid-briefing, turning briefly inward, appearing to mock his own press secretary's media performance while simultaneously praising her publicly. The moment had gone viral 11 days earlier, drawing attention to the specific, unpredictable internal dynamic of an administration whose public messaging apparatus was built on the explicit confidence of a woman who was, it turned out, also subject to the same lateral pressure from the man she spoke for as everyone else in the building. By the following morning, the story had three threads running simultaneously: Kimmel's defense, Leavitt's briefing room performance, and the Oval Office clip of the president apparently questioning the press secretary's performance from the same podium she had used to demand Kimmel's firing. Each thread existed on its own. Together, they told the story of a week in which the White House press operation had deployed its full institutional weight: the president's platform, the First Lady's letterhead, the briefing room cameras, against a joke about an age difference made by a man 18 days from his final broadcast. The clip of Leavitt saying, "Who says that?" had been viewed 11 million times by Wednesday. The clip of Kimmel saying, "And they know that," had been viewed 14 million. The two three-word sentences, cut together in the threads that ran them side by side, told the complete story of the week without requiring a narrator. Two people, two podiums, two registrations of the same underlying question, arriving at opposite conclusions about who, in a room full of cameras and a country watching, has the right to say what. The people who subscribe to this channel don't come for drama. They come for the moments nobody else is willing to show. The ones where the most complete argument about press freedom and political pressure is not made in a courtroom or a congressional hearing, but in a 11-second clip of a press secretary asking three words beside an 11-second clip of a comedian answering them. Join them. Subscribe. Turn on notifications. The next truth is already on the table.